And here we are. It always takes a few minutes to get StreamYard to be friends with Instagram, but we are live today. I am Helen Harwood Snell, providing the word alchemy for your business sales and growth through communication intelligence and stories. So each week in 2024, I decided I'm going to introduce a new guest instead of doing this all by myself. So we're going to learn a little bit about our guest today, their business and their personality, and then I ask them to share a story, and we turn that into a business story they can use so that they can become relatable and break down that barrier that we often have in a sales conversation. So I do want to welcome to the grand stage with me today, live and in person, Christine DeMarinis. My goodness, DeMarinis. I knew how to say that. I just
There you
stumbled over
go.
my words. How are you today, Christine?
I am amazing. I'm very, very good. I'm ready to watch the Leafs. It's going to be a good day.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with that because I don't know, I don't follow hockey at all. So what's happening? They're still in the playoffs?
They are still in the playoffs. Will they be in the playoffs past tonight? We don't know yet, but we are hoping so.
Okay. Is this the longest playoff run they've had in a while? I feel like maybe it
No,
is.
no,
No?
they made it to the second round last year, so that was
Oh.
pretty iconic. But I think we have a little curse against Boston that we still can't seem to
Mm.
break. So, but you
All
know what?
right.
No, we'll knock on wood because it's not over until it's over.
Awesome. So, Christina, I just want to share with the audience that you are a licensed level two mortgage agent at Verico, the financial forum, and you enjoy dealing with home buyers on customized mortgages. And I know there's lots of other intricacies to that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I want to ask you, first of all, what is a level two mortgage broker? I've never even heard of that before. And why are there different levels?
Okay, so this is that's a good question. It's actually quite new. It only got implemented legitimately at in April of this year. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so level two essentially means that I can deal with all different types of lenders. So for me, I can deal with A lenders, B lenders, and private lenders. If you are just at the level one, you can't deal with private mortgages, and I think that all comes back with like what we've seen over the last couple of years and the bigger trend of borrowers needing to go to private lenders more than typical. So, and they are
Yeah.
dealt with a bit differently on our end. So, I think it is a good change, and I'm happy to be a level two because now I can help everybody. So,
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So I always love to throw my guests off right from the start. Instead of digging into your business, I want you to tell me a little bit about who you are outside of work. So we obviously know you're a Leafs fan. What else about you do we need to know?
I absolutely love to travel. That is probably one of my favorite things in the entire world. And it's funny. I was just asking my friend the other day, like, oh, what's your like happiest moment? And the only thing that I could think of was like literally boarding a plane. And so that to me is like my end all be all. I have a huge list of places that I've been and even more places that I want to go. Um, I
Wow.
love food. I love good cocktails, a nice IPA beer. I'm a pretty simple person, but those are the things that probably bring me the most joy.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Um, and so this kind of, you maybe have already answered this, but tell me three things, three of the most important things to you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I will start off with the very simple answer of family. I think because I'm very Italian rooted, family is very, very important to me. Um, I would say that the second thing that is very important to me are my friends because I think that those are, your chosen family, and my friends are absolutely incredible human beings. Um, Truly, I would be nothing without them and my family. So those are definitely the top two. And then honestly, yeah, travel is got to be third on my list of things there.
Awesome. So who would you rather travel with, friends or family?
That is a trick question. Um, Unfortunately, to my family, it'll be my friends because I just tend to go on more trips with them at this point.
Yeah, probably I would see, a little bit more maybe of that adventurous spirit for those who are younger, but I'm sure certain trips with your parents might be really memorable as well, right? So it's not
Exactly.
it's not that you're choosing one over the other. So
There
if
are a
mom is
few
if mom
trips.
is listening, she still loves you. Don't worry,
Yeah.
mom.
My mom is the least Instagram social media person in the world, so I know she's not.
Awesome. Then we don't have to worry about it. Awesome, awesome. So I'd love to ask those questions because I feel like an important part of our business is actually showing up as who we are as a person. And I want to talk more about how you do that in your work. So what do you do? Is there a special niche or anything that you work in your work as a mortgage broker?
Yeah, so
And
I'm actually I'm digging into this niche that I have made up, to be honest, and that
that's
is
the
what
best kind.
yeah, that it's something that I'm calling New Horizons. So
Okay.
that really encompasses anybody who is like a first time home buyer, somebody who is, you know, currently working on their business or, just about to launch their business, but also kind of stepping into that home ownership role. That could be a young couple who is about to have their first kid and, they need to sell their home and upgrade that to something bigger, or even on the bit of a sadder side, maybe, or sometimes in a happy scenario. When it's like a divorced or widowed individual as well. So anybody who's on that like new horizon path is somebody that
Mm,
I really, really like to work with.
awesome. I love that. So
Mhm.
so tell me a little bit about what makes a mortgage different for someone who is, I would use the term self-employed, but I think your terminology that you shared with me earlier was a self-mortgage.
Yeah, a business for self mortgage. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um when you're kind of comparing the two, there isn't a whole lot of difference, but what it does come down to is really like the income verification of it all, because certain lenders will have different rules of what needs to be considered as income and what isn't, and sometimes in most cases for a business for self individual or self-employed, those are a little trickier to deal with because you don't necessarily have the typical tax returns or pay stubs or anything like that.
Okay.
So in a business for self mortgage, all of that gets taken into consideration.
And are there kind of different ways of reporting income if you are in business for self
Yeah,
in
there.
terms of, like, I know, just for example from my own experience, um, my salary, um, well, how do I want to phrase this? So my self-employed income, I guess I should say, was less um, attractive
Mhm.
than the actual like overall assets that
Yeah.
I had to bring into the mortgage. So could you explain kind of how that works a little bit more and maybe some tips for people who are self-employed? Let's start with the first part.
Yeah, yeah.
How does the income reporting show up differently, or how can it show up differently to actually benefit someone who's self-employed?
Definitely. And your example right there of what you were just saying of how your income wasn't being shown properly. That is exactly why business for self, it's kind of like a product, if you will, if that's how you want to think of it,
Okay.
exists because of that exact reason. So there's three different ways that you can really verify that income. And one is going to be obviously that traditional route where it's, that taxed income, and it's typically averaged over like 2 years. So that can be things like tax returns, notices of assessment, pay stubs, commission statements, bonuses, things like, pardon me, things like that, where like any like salaried type of person would have access to. So that's the first one. And
Okay.
then the second one would be like non-traditional income sources. So that would be like if you're kind of like getting like dividends or rental income, or you have deposits, things like that, even like alimony or child support or investment income can be
Okay.
classified as that non-traditional income. But the third one is exactly what you would want to be using, which is stated income. So this is typically used in business for self mortgages because, as we've talked about now, it is really hard for self-employed individuals to provide that traditional documentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the stated income, you don't necessarily need that extensive paperwork, but you do have to provide evidence of like why you are estimating your income to be what you're saying it is in a reasonable state kind of thing. So
Okay.
people that would
Um,
use stated income, sorry, I'll tell you who
yeah.
can use this because I think that's important too. Um,
Yes.
People that could use that would be like sole proprietors, freelancers, independent contractors, commission based earners, people that are like Uber drivers or even seasonal workers. That's the type of income verification that they would want to kind of like dial in on.
Okay. And so with that being said, is there, I know I've heard before that if you're applying for a mortgage, you should, try to make your income look better for a couple of years. So not write as many things off or whatever so that your income looks better. But would you actually also advise that it's better to have like kind of like a built up a bigger deposit or a bigger nest egg of sorts so that I can't remember what you called it, but that third thing that you've got these assets, is
Yep.
that like a more practical approach for someone who's in business for themselves?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that you should really like build up for a couple of years and then, make yourself look better because there's also something called like a gross up or an add back, which can be used, and that's up to like 15% an increase of what you're telling your lender, right? And
Okay.
so that's if you're using something like CMHC or similar to that. And
Yep.
so that 15% does bump you up and gives you that like that look of exactly what you were just trying to explain before of like, you are inflating yourself type of thing. I definitely wouldn't suggest ever kind of lying or inflating yourself and bringing yourself up more because that'll just cause you more problems in the end, right? I think
Hmm.
I think, sure, if you want to cut back on your expenses and things like that, that's always going to be a good thing regardless. Or,
Sure.
like I think everybody wants to make as much money as possible. And so I think that 15% gross up or add back would achieve exactly what you were maybe suggesting um, in your question. So,
Right. Awesome. And so being that you're able to deal in private mortgages,
mhm.
can you talk a little bit about that with so for example, with someone who is self-employed, is that a more common route? Or is that just becoming a more common route for people in general because of the craziness of the market? Like what are you finding to be trends there?
So in general, absolutely, private lending is very, very much on the up and up. Um, and I think that lends itself back to like 2020, 2021, and probably 2022 as well, because a lot of people did rack up these debts and things like that, where a private lender is absolutely the go-to move on consolidating those debts because they will allow you to have those like smaller loans for kind of a more customized term, right? So
Okay.
that's kind of like a quick win to consolidate those debts. In terms of um, business for self mortgages, though, you can kind of go between like a private lender or a B lender in most cases because they'll just offer a bit more flexibility when it comes to that income. And a lot of A lenders do have a really extensive and like not strict list, but they do have a bit more rules and regulations when it comes to documents that you need to provide. So that's why in a business for self scenario, a B lender and a private are probably um, more used because it just does accommodate those self-employed individuals and gives that flexibility.
Okay. Okay, now I have a curious question for you then on that front too, because so several years ago now, when I first separated from my husband and I had to get my own mortgage,
Mhm.
my bank actually wouldn't give me a mortgage at that time. so I went to a mortgage broker like yourself,
Mhm.
and they actually set up a mortgage for me with the very same bank that actually turned down my application. Is that also common? Like, are there just more, I don't even know how to say, more creative ways of the application process, or
You know,
things that a mortgage broker might take into consideration that a bank maybe wouldn't? Like, are they a little bit more rote kind of in how they approach it?
You know what? It could be a number of things and it's hard to speculate, right? But if I were to give my most like educated guess, it is number one that like a mortgage agent does know kind of these little like tips and tricks of how to make a client look more appealing, if that's how you want to kind of phrase that, right? In
Sure.
terms of like, we know what things to highlight and how to just get you to where you want to be. Um, and so that could be that what that was, or it could also be, and this is nothing against a bank at all because I do use them as lenders and things like that, but it also could be, you're just one person walking into a bank, whereas your mortgage broker at the time could have had a very long lasting relationship with somebody at the bank who then,
Right.
your mortgage agent did an incredible job and advocated for you in ways that, just uh, somebody that you've interacted with only a handful of times just would never be able to do. And I think that's also a huge highlight of working with a mortgage agent. So
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I guess in terms of thinking of that, like as a broker, right?
yeah,
You're shopping around to find the best deal for me that I maybe couldn't find on my own. Same as if you deal with, an insurance broker. They're shopping out your car insurance or your house insurance or whatever. And maybe a lot of people don't think about it that way.
yeah,
That it's a service. It's a level up absolutely from what you can get by just walking into your own bank.
yep,
So that's
definitely.
incredible. So tell me more about what drew you into the business of mortgages.
That is a very I don't really have an answer of what drew me here specifically. Um, I took a break from my corporate job for about a year, and in that year, I spent some time writing down different things in a notebook and different career paths that I thought that I wanted to do and would explore. And I started to look at what I liked in like different aspects of life, like whether it would have been like high school, university, my career prior, or life in general. And so I had things on there like a food truck owner, and like just anything that I could come up with that I thought would bring me joy. And actually, at the top of the list was becoming a mortgage agent, and it honestly had everything that I wanted a career to be. Whether that was really like I loved math. I wanted to help people more than anything. I always wanted to go out and build a business like my dad and my uncles did. I always wanted to just you know be the decision maker and just change people's lives for the better. And I don't know how a mortgage agent crossed my mind, but it had everything and it has everything. And I'm so happy to be doing this. So
That's
that
a,
little that
that's
little notebook.
incredible. And I
Yeah.
would say that you must also be very detail oriented because again, my experience in dealing with a mortgage agent before is that they seem to be ahead of what the lawyer's supposed to be doing and what the bank's supposed to be
Mm.
doing and all of the little pieces. So again, as a broker, I don't really think I can state enough to people how resourceful and helpful you are, especially for someone who's a first time buyer. But in any instance, to just make sure that the lawyer's on top of all the details that they're supposed to be doing and the bank's got all of their paperwork done and all of those kinds of things, right? So I'm going to guess that that's a huge part of your personality, that you're very,
I'm a good list maker, so
yeah.
I have many a list for the entirety of my job, and that is what keeps me on track.
Yeah.
That list grows in more and more detail with every day. So
Yeah.
yeah, very very detail oriented in that aspect. Yeah.
That would be absolutely why I could not be a mortgage agent, because I'm really good at math too. I love helping people. I love to be, the master of my own destiny, but I have lists all over the place and I never look at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not so
That
good.
can happen though.
Yeah. So, what previous life experience do you have that you bring into this business with you?
Hmm. That is a really good question. Honestly, I actually just think it's my entire personality and my entire being is what I bring to this table. I am not a salesperson ever. I have never been a salesperson. I still think I don't know the first thing about sales. I think what really just lends to such a great benefit for me in this industry is just my entire being and all the literally every life experience that I've had, because I think that that's what's led me to be quite a compassionate person. Um,
Mm.
quite, I just really want to help people, and I can be quite understanding. And in the real world, I am not so calm, cool, and collected. But in business, I just in every business that I've ever worked in or at or for, I have been quite level-headed and patient and calm and cool under pressure, and I think that is what makes me better here. And I did work in quite a fast-paced industry and business before this, so that probably does lend some hand into this.
Awesome. And did you mention that your father also grew his own business? So do you kind of have that in your blood a little bit as well?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit when I was saying why I got into this, but yeah, I think that is really the biggest driving factor of what gave me the confidence, number one, in going out on my own and working as hard as I do day in and day out, because I saw my dad and his two brothers, my uncles, work tirelessly for I don't know how many decades. And so, coming home, my dad would come home at 8, 9 p.m., sometimes 10 p.m., and that's why my bedtime was so late. And it's because he was working so hard and putting in all this effort. And now me looking back on all of those times, I'm like, wow, the sacrifices and just the absolute dedication that he had to his business um, puts me into this like category that I just would die to be in. So I think that's really what drives me to be better and stick with every situation that I'm in.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so now we both have a hard cut at 5:30 today. So in the
Yeah.
last 6 minutes, I just want to show people how just a quick story from someone's life can really help to relate their business on a personal level. And so I'm going to ask if you can tell me a story, Christine, about either something that's happened recently or maybe a pivotal moment in your life. And I'm going to work that for you based on the conversation that we've had into a story that you could use in your business.
Hmm. Okay. I should have prepared for this. Okay. A pivotal moment in my life, I think, would probably be um, stepping away from the corporate world, in which I thought would be my entire life for many many years. I thought that the job that I was working would be what I was going to do forever and ever and ever. And then probably making that decision to walk away was a really pivotal moment in my life that has
Mm,
shaped me and brought me here today.
awesome. Okay, so I would say right off the top, one of the things that I think you could do to relate to your audience with that story is to share when you're whether you're networking or whether it's a social media post that you put out there, or if you have a regular newsletter that you send out to contacts and clients, just to say something along the lines of, because you work a lot with helping people who are self-employed, to relate to that journey, and just say something like, I remember when I left the corporate world, how scary it was. Um, Deciding that I was going to go out on my own and actually not even knowing what I was going to do at the time. I understand how scary that is for you to be, paying the bills, trying to look after your family, whatever that may be, and all of the complications that come along with self-employment when you're even trying to apply for a mortgage. I've been there, I get you, and I can help you on that journey.
I love that. I
Awesome.
love that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of the great things about storytelling, is they really help to create a meaningful connection for your audience. And there is science-backed data that actually talks about the neural pathways that are created when we tell stories. It actually helps with our sales. And I will mention, just because Christina, you said you're not good at sales. Obviously, you're good in some fashion, because you're making a living, and you're actually getting mortgage product for people. But I want to invite the audience to join me again for Tuesday Tales. I do this every Tuesday night. I've got a couple that I'm going to miss later in the month, because I'm going to be at provincial swimming competition with my daughter. And but you can join us on Tuesday Tales, or I want to offer that if you want to learn how to incorporate storytelling and value-based communication so that you can really connect with your customer, um, to drive more sales for your business, that I just invite you to look in the bio link on my platform, wherever you're watching from, and look for the Close the Sale workshop. It's actionable steps that you can practice live with me. We're going to go through 5 different things that actually aid you in the sales process. It's on May 6th, and so I invite you all to join. Christina, thank you so much for joining today. And if anyone's watching this on the replay, give us a hashtag replay, give us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what we've put together for you today. So thanks again, Christina, and thanks to all of you for watching.
Thank you, Helen.